Hello dear my students. Now in this chapter and in this video we are going to cover the data handling chapter of your Python syllabus. Chapter is available in both computer science and informatics practices with different chapter numbers. So the name is same. You can find out the chapter in your book with the name of the chapter, that is data handling. Now data handling is a very important concept in Python, and in this chapter we are going to discuss about the various concepts of the data types and also the operators, expressions and some of the Python standard libraries. Python is basically a language where you are storing the values in a program. You are making a programs where the values are stored. Now the values stored are of different types. Some of them are numbers, some of them are alphanumeric, some are totally alphabetic, some are digits, some are dates, and different types of data we have. So Python is a language in which we are having the different data types of elements which we are going to store. There is no the literals available in the Python. Literals are numbers, literals are strings, and some literals are boolean, etc. So according to the type of literal, we have the different types of values in Python. A data type is a way to tell the interpreter that what type of value a variable is storing in it and what type of operations can be performed on this type of data. So in this chapter we are going to focus basically on the fundamentals such as data types, variables, operators and expressions. We will learn the predefined set of data types which are available in Python and how can we store the different types of data in these data types. We will also talk about the mutable and immutable variables in Python. So let us begin with the core data types in the Python. The core data types of in the Python can be categorized into 5 categories: numbers, string, list, tuple and dictionary. These are the core or fundamental data types of a Python language which we are going to discuss in detail now. First comes the numbers. Numbers, as you can see that the numbers are the all those numeric values which you are going to store in the Python. You can store three types of numerical values in the Python. First is integers, second is floating numbers, and third one is complex numbers. The integers are the whole numbers with plus or minus sign. So just like mathematics, the integers here also are without decimals, and all the numbers are either with plus sign or minus sign without any decimal part are known as integers. Similarly, these integers are further divided into the 3-4 main categories. First is the integers are boolean types also considered. All in Python the boolean data type true and false will also considered as in the category of integers. Let me show you the integers in the Python. How can you deal with the integers? You can make the variables storing the integers. I went into the Python. This is a Python, ideally you know. Now if I take a variable a and store a numeric value 10 without any decimal, that is an integer. Similarly b, I can store a numerical value minus 10, so b is an integer. So in this way you are storing the numeric values in the Python and dealing with in integers in Python. This is the most common data type for numbers. Now all the different boolean data types are the true and false are also considered integers. If you try to find out the boolean value of wool 1, you will get the answer true because 1 is always considered as true. Similarly, if you want to convert the 0, you will find the value as 0. This in defaults. This indicates that the boolean variables are also there and booleans are considered as the integers in the Python. Second type of numbers are the floating point numbers. These are the numbers with decimal point, and we use the writing the floating numbers in this way. For example, f is equal to 10.45. If you want to store a suppose height of a student, you can use h is equal to 156.780. So in this way you can store the numbers in different forms in the Python. You can use the exponent notation form also for storing the floating numbers. For example, if you have a number n and you want to store a number 156 and the number is 89017, this number is a floating number. If you want to store the number in a exponential form, you can write m.56 e raised to power plus. Now you are shifting this decimal point from the this place 156.2 to 1.56, so you can write here up to plus 2. So this number can be stored in this way. Now if you print the m, you will get the answer like this way. So there are the numbers which we can store in the Python. The numbers are basically stored in the variables, and they are much slower in processing compared to integers. Now next is the complex numbers, but we are not going to discuss the complex number much detail because they are not much used in the syllabus of our, and it is a much complex mathematical part, so we are leaving the third category of complex numbers and maybe we do it later on. Next is your string. String is basically that type of data type which is considered as a collection of characters. Though string is one of the sequence data type, also according to the code data types, if you go that the strings is sequences are also there, which is a string, list and tuple. So string is considered as a tuple, considered as a sequence data type also, but it can be considered as a normal data type which is storing the characters in single, double or triple quotes. For example, name of a person, place, subject, etc. all are strings. Okay, so you can create a strings using the alphabets available in the Python language. String is collection of character, means you can have in characters in you can have all the alphabets, uppercase or lowercase. You can have the you can have the different special symbols, and you can have the different operators, symbols, spaces, etc. are considered in the combination string. Let me show you some strings on the screen. If I write here s is equal to ram, so ram, this ram is a collection or group of characters enclosed in double quote is called string, and s is a string variable. Now if you print s, it will going to print the value of s, that is ram, yani we have stored in a string variable as ram as a value. You can write the strings directly in the print function with double quotes or single quotes. So in this way string you can use in your Python programming. Strings have an index, positive index and negative index. Okay, the strings have an index, means positive index, and each character of a string has a positive index. For example, if I write here print s0, so here 0 will be the index of the first element. Every character in a string has two indexes, one is positive index and the other one is the negative index. Positive index is also called forward index. It is starting the element value from the 0 to increasing by 1, 2, 3 and so on. So every character string is having a positive index starting with 0. If I write s0, it will print the first character of your string. So sorry, here s is not defined, s is capital, so I have to write print s0. See, r is printed. Similarly, there is negative character index also with the Python, and you can use that backward indexing also. Each character in a Python has a I can show you this thing on the screen. You open the page. This is the Python string. This is starting from the 0, you have the index up to maximum length -1. Similarly, you have the negative indexes also, a backward indexing also from the last -1, -2, -3, -4. So each character in a string is given a unique index. There are two indexing systems, so each character has a two unique indexes in a Python. Let me show you how that we can have this. This is the how it means, that is the last string. So the cyclically stored characters in a combination or collection. Okay, the first character of the string is at index 0 or minus length. The second character of the string is at index 1 or minus length -1. And similarly, we can find out the index of each and every element of the index. So in this way, strings help us to store the names of a person, place, or any other thing, etc. Strings play a very important role in our Python programming also. Let us now move to the list and tuples. Let me show you the list of the tuples in the data types which are storing action of similar type of values. Used similar type of values. For example, if I want to collect the vowels in a single way with a single name, then I can prepare a list in Python. For some number of first 5 students, I can make a string or a list. Sorry, I can make a list. So also helping. How can we create a list? L is list, then we can store some numbers into it in square brackets 10, 20, 30 and 40 and 50. C list can store the multiple numbers. In a variable, integer variable, say suppose a, you can store one number at a time. Either you can store 10 or you can store 20 or you can store 30. But in a list you can store the multiple numbers. You can also store you can make combination of different data types as a single data type. If you want to store the student roll number, name and marks, you can store in a single list. Say suppose L1 is equal to roll number suppose 10, name is Ravi, and then marks is 90. So in this way you can store the different types of values in a string, in a list. Tuple is also just like the list, but tuples are considered as immutable types, where list is mutable types. A tuple is considered created by using the round brackets in this way, and we write the values in it 10, 20, 30 and 40. There is only technical difference between these two. So overall there is no difference between the list and tuple for the normal user. So these are the basic data types of your list, and we can use them in our programming. With this we have come to the basic and completed all the basic data types of your Python. In the next we are going to discuss the what do you mean by the mutable and immutable data types. The mutable and immutable types. The Python data objects are basically divided into two main categories, mutable and immutable. Let us now try to understand these two terms and what is their meaning in the Python data types. You know that the term mutable is related to one that is changeable or modable, and immutable means that is not modifiable types. Now immutable types are those types that can never change their values in place. Let me show you this concept in your book, and then I will explain you this process or this concept from your book. Mutable and immutable types. The immutable types are those that can never change their values in place. For example, integers, floating point numbers, booleans, strings and tuples. These are the basic data types which are of immutable type. What do you mean by the immutable type? Let us try to understand it with some code. For example, if I create three variables p, q and r and assign a value to them, p is equal to 5, q is equal to p and r is 5. Then if I print it, it will give me the values 5, 5, 5. Now suppose I change the value of p to 10, r is equal to 7 and q is equal to r. Now what will happen? Let us try to understand this with the concept. As you know that the variables in the Python are not the storage containers. They are the references to the true value objects. So the only the references change. Internally Python process these is explained in the next diagram. Here you see that PQR is initially R equal to 5. So they all refer to PQR will store the address of a location where 5 is stored. Because in Python the variables are reference type. They are storing the location's address where the 5 is stored. This can be shown confirmed in the Python by using the id function. Id function returns the memory address to which variable is referencing. So if I apply this id function to the variables, I am getting the address of the location to which the pointer is variable is referring. For example, p, q and r is equal to 5. I write id 5 will give me the address of the location where 5 is stored. Now since p is also pointing to the same location, I will get the same address. Q is also pointing to the same location, I will get the same address. R is also pointing to the same address, I will get the same address in the output. Note, memory addresses are depending on the operating system and will vary in different sessions. These addresses can change according to your operating system and according to your memory locations. Now the next set of statements when execute, it means when p is becoming 10, r is becoming 7 and q is equal to r, then what will happen? Then the names are made to that's now their memory address. The was having a value 5 will be the same as the value will be with the same value, it means 5, but p will be no longer referencing it. Same is for other variables. What I am saying is that here you can see that p is becoming 10, so p will point to a location where 10 is stored. So the p will be pointing to some other location. R will be pointing to a location where 7 is stored, and q will point to the location where r is pointing, because q and r are equal. Now if you try to see the addresses of the 10 and p will be same, id 10 and id p you will see will be same, 7 and q and r will also be same. See that this time change in the value will reference memory addresses of the variables p, q, r have changed. The value 5 is still at the same address. The 5 is still lying at the same address. The location to which the pointer p is pointing has been changed. Means the 5 is not have changed its location. This is the called immutable. So it is clear that in the Python variable names are the stored as a reference to a value object. Each time you change the value, the variable reference memory addresses changes. This type of concept where the variables are not like storage containers, it means with fixed memory addresses where value changes every time, they are immutable. These are the data types which follow this concept, so they are known as immutable data types in Python. So we can say that mutability means that in the same address new values can be stored as and when you want. Now mutability is opposite of immutability, means that allows you to at the same address new value can be stored as and when you want. This types that do not support this property will be immutable types. So that is how we can explain the mutable types. Let me show you this thing in the concept of Python. I am taking a variable p is equal to 5, then q is equal to p, and r is also equal to 5. If I print the id of 5, that is also this one, id of p, that will be also the same, id of q, that is also the same, and id of r is also the same. Now if I change their locations, p is changed to 10, so the id of 10 is, let me see the what is the id of the 10, that will be assigned to the id of to the p. Now see the id of p, now it is equal to the 10. Similarly id of, suppose q is changed, r is suppose changed to 7 and q is equal to r suppose, then what will happen is that id of 7 will be the same of id of p and id of q. So this is the immutability. So I hope you have understood this meaning. Next is mutable types. The mutable types are those whose values can be changed in place. There are three types of data types in Python whose values can be changed at a place: list, dictionary, and sets. You can create a list, as I told you earlier. List is basically a collection of elements which may or may not be of same type, same data type. Here check is a collection of some integers 2, 4 and 6. So you can see that the id of the check is same, this one. Now if you change any element in the list, if you changing the, for example this 4 is replaced by 40, then even your address of the id will not be going to change. I hope now you have understood the meaning of mutables and immutables in Python. Next is the variable internals. In Python we are seeing that everything, whether it is data or it is a variable, each is considered as an object, because Python is also an object oriented programming of language. Now just object, you know that it is a basically entity which exhibits properties and characteristics. So integer values, data type variables, all these are the treated as objects, so they also have the properties and the behavior. All the Python objects have the three key attributes associated to them. Let us try to understand these attributes. First is the type of object. Every Python object has a type. Whether it is a literal or a variable, there is a type. The type of a object can be determined by the type function, which returns the built-in types of the Python objects. What I am saying is, let us we try to understand with the example. Let us suppose there is a variable a equal to and storing a value literal 4 in it. Now if you are going to see the type of 4, it is integer, a built-in class of the Python. Second, if you are going to see the type of a, then it is also integer. So this shows that the every data type object or a variable has a type. Then next is the value of the object. It is the data item contained in the object. Generally a literal, the value of the literal itself and value of the variable is the data item which is currently referencing. You can use the print statement to display the value of any object. For example, a equal to 4, again if you write print 4, the value of 4 literal will be print. If you write print a, then the value of the variable a will be printed. Third is the id of an object. It is generally the memory location of the object. id is implemented, but in most implementation it returns the memory location of the object. Built-in id function returns the id of the object, so you can find out the id of any literal, say suppose 4, by writing this id 4, and you can find out the id of any variable, that is by writing the variable name in between the id. For example, here if I write id 4, it gives the location to which currently a is referencing, right? If a is changed to 7, then this id address will also going to change. So we can say that the id, type and values are the three important characteristics of any Python object. Now with this I have completed the topic of mutability and immutable. Students, try to do these questions given in your book. If you have understood all the topics and need any help, kindly contact me personally. I am willingly and happily ready to solve your all doubts and queries. Now next, the topic which we are now starting will be the